Hello and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Paso Robles City Council for Tuesday, November the 15th. For those of you listening in, this is Mayor Steve Martin speaking. And before we get started, I'd like to read the following. City has returned to hybrid public meetings pursuant to AB 361, which allows for a deviation from the teleconference rules required by the Ralph M. Brown Act. Residents now have the option to attend the meeting in person or to participate remotely. To participate remotely, residents can listen to the meeting live on the radio at 12:30 a.m. or live stream the meeting at www.prcity.com/YouTube and call 805-865-7276 to provide public comment via phone. The phone line will open just prior to the start of the meeting and remain open throughout the meeting to ensure the opportunity to comment on each item heard by the council. Written public comments can be submitted via email to cityclerk@prcity.com prior to 12 noon on the day of the council meeting to be posted as an addendum to the agenda. If submitting written comments in advance of the meeting, please note the agenda item by number or name. City council meetings will be live streamed during the meeting and also available to play later on YouTube by accessing the following link, www.prcity.com/YouTube. With that, I'll call the meeting to order and ask for a roll call, please.
Councilmember Bausch.
Present.
Councilmember Gregory.
Here.
Councilmember Hammond.
Here.
Councilmember Strong is absent. And Mayor Martin.
Here, we do have a quorum present. First item on the agenda tonight is closed session. I will ask the city attorney to let us know what we'll be discussing in that meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We'll be going into closed session for one item. It is conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. The city negotiators are Mr. Lewis, your city manager, and Mr. Cornell, the administrative services director. And the employee organizations are the International Association of Firefighters, Paso Robles Police Officers Association, Service Employees International Union, unrepresented part-time employees, and unrepresented management employees.
Thank you. I'll open public comment for this item on the closed session. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak to that? Seeing no one rise, I see no one standing in line online. We will close public comment, and without objection, we will recess to closed session. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Paso Robles City Council for Tuesday, November the 15th. For those of you listening in, Mayor Steve Martin speaking. And before we get started, I'd like to read the following. The city has returned to hybrid public meetings pursuant to AB 361, which allows for a deviation from the teleconference rules required by the Ralph M. Brown Act. Residents now have the option to attend the meeting in person or to participate remotely. To participate remotely, residents can listen to the meeting live on the radio at 12:30 a.m. or live stream the meeting at www.prcity.com/YouTube and call 805-865-7276. That's 805-865-7276 to provide public comment via phone. The phone line will open just prior to the start of the meeting and remain open throughout the meeting to ensure the opportunity to comment on each item heard by the council. Written public comments can be submitted via email to cityclerk@prcity.com prior to 12 noon on the day of the council meeting to be posted as an addendum to the agenda. If submitting written comments in advance of the meeting, please note the agenda item by number or name. City council meetings will be live streamed during the meeting and also available to play later on YouTube by accessing the following link, www.prcity.com/YouTube. With that, I will reconvene our open session for the evening. Invite everyone to rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please remain standing for the invocation by Pastor Sheehan. With me, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Lord God, during this holiday season when we pause to give thanks, we thank you for our elected leaders, Mayor Martin, Councilpersons Gregory, Hammond, Bosch, and Strong. Fill them with wisdom and knowledge for every decision before them tonight. Father, bless our police and emergency services personnel who bravely protect and serve. May your amazing grace be upon our city staff to give them all they need to manage and care for our city. And Father, again, we thank you for your great love and many blessings poured out on Paso Robles. And we ask this all in the precious name of your Son. Amen.
May we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Bausch,
Present.
Councilmember Gregory,
Here.
Councilmember Hammond,
Here.
Councilmember Strong,
Here.
Mayor Martin.
Here. At this time, we'd like to pause during our meeting to give the opportunity for our staff members in attendance to introduce themselves. Also, anybody in the audience who represents a city commission or advisory committee. So as we go around the room, if you would please stand and identify yourself, we'd like to recognize those who do the work of the city. On my right, please.
Warren Frace, Community Development Director.
Melissa Boyer, City Clerk, joined by Shauna Howenstein, Civic Engagement Coordinator, and Karen Jackson, IT Technician.
Mary Sponholz, Deputy City Clerk.
Chris Huon, Assistant City Manager.
Paul Sloan, Economic Development Manager.
Rita Esperanza, Capital Projects Engineer.
Christopher Lucko, Utility Director.
Now.
David Abdi, City Engineer.
Elizabeth Hull, City Attorney.
Thank you very much. Anyone else online? Very good. Welcome all. Before this regular session of the Paso Robles City Council, we had an announced closed session meeting. I'll ask the city attorney now if there's any reportable action from that meeting. What did I say?
You asked what we went into closed session on.
Excuse me?
I'm sorry, Fred was closed session. Got it.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, Chris. We went into closed session on one item. It was conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. Your city negotiators are Mr. Lewis and Mr. Cornell, and the employee organizations were the International Association of Firefighters, Paso Robles Police Officers Association, Service Employees International Union, unrepresented part-time employees, unrepresented management employees, and there was no reportable action.
Thank you very much. First up on our agenda tonight, we have a presentation for National Apprenticeship Week. I would invite Mark Simonin, the IBEW Business Manager, and Don Bollinger, Director of San Luis Workforce Development Board, to come forward, please. Mark Simonin, Mark. So we have National Apprenticeship Week for 2022, November 14th through the 20th. Whereas the Workforce Development Board of San Luis Obispo County, the San Luis Obispo County Office of Education, and construction trades unions in San Luis Obispo County, including the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 639, and Pipe Trades UA Local 403, have partnered to expand apprenticeship opportunities and head of household jobs in the construction trades in San Luis Obispo County. And whereas the advancement and well-being of the city of Paso Robles, San Luis Obispo County, State of California, and United States of America depends upon the continued development of a skilled and trained workforce in the building and construction trades. Whereas an ever-growing number of job creators and career seekers are discovering the benefits of apprenticeship's unique learn-while-you-earn model. Whereas the city of Paso Robles recognizes that robust apprenticeship programs provide tangible value to both job creators and apprentices, with the potential to increase productivity, improve diversity and inclusion, and reduce recruitment and training costs while providing a pathway to prosperous careers for job seekers. Whereas the City of Paso Robles National Apprenticeship Week, which is celebrating its 8th anniversary of raising awareness of the vital role apprenticeships provide in creating a qualified and highly skilled workforce in the building and construction trades in the City of Paso Robles, the County of San Luis Obispo, and across the nation. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Stephen W. Martin, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor and speaking on behalf of the entire Paso Robles City Council, do hereby proclaim November 14th through the 20th, 2022, to be National Apprenticeship Week in the city of Paso Robles. We welcome you here for this proclamation. We'd love to have you say a few words if you would like.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor Martin. We do appreciate the city of Paso Robles recognizing the National Apprenticeship Week. We take it very seriously. We recognize we don't do a great job publicizing the opportunities for our young folks in the area. But there are apprenticeships for construction workers in San Luis Obispo County with the IBEW, which is the electrical workers, the UA, which are the pipe fitters. We have operating engineer facilities here. A lot of folks we look at out here in the crowd, you guys all have the children or grandchildren or friends that might be inclined to go into the construction trades, and we would encourage you to seek out those opportunities. They're head of household type jobs. They come with benefits, being health care and pensions. And there's lots of opportunity. Talking to Maria before the meeting, we have a lot of energy coming in the area. We're going to need a lot of people to do this work. So we do appreciate the proclamation. We do have an event, an apprenticeship forum coming up at our facility in San Luis Obispo out by the airport, 6363 Edna Road. You're all welcome to attend. It's between noon and 3 o'clock this coming Friday in celebration of Apprenticeship Week. We'll have an apprentice forum. We'll have an apprentice panel that will do a Q&A with the crowd. We have about 100 RSVPs at this point, local leaders throughout the community, and it might just might find something that might work for somebody in your family or your circle. So we do appreciate it, and we thank Paso Robles and all the city council members for their support.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Steve.
Next on our agenda, we have our capital projects report.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. Here's our monthly report for Public Works projects. The first one I'm going to do is the Public Works Roads project under construction. And I just want to again reiterate that there's 2 sanctioned detour routes for the Paso Robles for the Golden Hill Union Road roundabout project. This one and this one is the Ardmore Road. Again, the Bronco Burger parking lot is not a detour route. Please stay away from there. That's only to access if you're getting hamburgers, buying coffee, or doing the car wash. And the enterprise rental car access is only for their use as well, for their customers. The medical plaza, again, is not a detour route, so please stay away from their parking lot. If you can, please avoid the residential streets near the project, and if you do, there will be radar trailers there, and the Paso Robles police are issuing tickets if you're speeding through those streets. So the project is underway now, so this shows the perimeter sidewalks of the roundabout under construction. Oops, kind of, something happened here. Oh, okay, well, so you can see the perimeter roundabout sidewalks are completed. You can kind of see now what the roundabout will look like. The shape in the middle is the actual roundabout. That's going to be constructed with concrete curbs, which is going to be the next phase. And the dirt around it is now fully treated with lime so that it's ready to receive the final asphalt paving when we're done with all the concrete. So now you can visualize what that roundabout would look like. The project, the Zone 5F and the Zone 5C projects are under construction. That's the Appaloosa neighborhood and the West Melody Drive neighborhood streets. We've done the dig out repairs. We're continuing with the edge grindings, and then we're proceeding with the leveling course and the final surface repair. The Country Club project, neighborhood pavement rehab, is also began. There's some curbs that needs to be, the deteriorated curbs, they're rolled curbs, not your typical vertical curbs, are now currently being constructed. And later in your agenda, there are 2 oak trees that we are requesting to be removed as they are in the way of the equipment. We have to have the air 15 feet above, and looking at it, if we trim these limbs, the oak trees won't make it because they have a strange lean to them and they'll lose their structure. And so we're asking that they be removed. This is the one on Bogey Street, and there's another one. And you can see how extremely difficult it would be if we trim those limbs and then it would just tip over. So we're asking that those be removed. It's on your consent item later on. Finally, some upcoming road projects. Pleased to announce that the city did receive a Cycle 6 Active Transportation Program grant. The total project cost is $17 million. The city matches it with 3.5, so the total grant amount is $13.8 million. The California Transportation Commission approval of staff recommendation is slated for their meeting in December. And just to inform the public, the project limit is from First Street to Creston Road. This is a visual representation of what is going to be constructed with this $17 million project. And I think I'm going to turn it over to Frida, unless you have questions of me.
This is an information report, no action is required, but let's see if the council has any questions of Ditas. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, Ditas, just a question on the roundabout. I noticed that they put pavement down. Will that become a permanent part of the subgrade?
That's not pavement, it's still dirt.
Really?
Yeah, so what it is, typically you would put in base, you would export base, and what we did is we went 18 inches into the existing dirt. We introduced this chemical treatment and we worked it in there, and through the chemical reaction it becomes robust, and that will act as the foundation and become the aggregate base. And then once we're done with all the concrete, then we will come for the asphalt. So that's not asphalt right now.
This is kind of what we've used out on Dry Creek and Airport Road, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, same thing.
It's a good way to do your street if there's a very limited underground utilities.
Any other council questions? Anybody in the community have a question of Ditas before she gets too far away from the microphone? Seeing no one come forward, Frida, you're up.
Thank you. I'll continue with other capital improvement projects and parks projects in the Public Works Department. First, Fire Station 3, we are continuing with work on that project. You'll see on this slide the estimated completion was May 2023. As I mentioned last time, there are supply chain issues and utility issues that are most likely going to delay that opening. But we continue to work on this project. Warren, this is a video, if you could click on the arrow, would be great. So this is a video showing the current state of Fire Station number 3. While you see what has been completed so far, what they're working on now is site fencing, sidewalks on the east and west sides of the property. They're beginning the boring project across Union Road for the primary electrical service and are starting on site lighting. Upcoming are stucco on the building and some driveways, but as you can see from this video that there has been significant progress made and everyone is getting very excited about the building. We even met today to talk about color schemes. And when you talk about color schemes, you know you actually have a project. So we're very excited to keep this going, and we'll be doing everything we can do to expedite the project. Next, the Uptown Family Park water feature. As I mentioned last meeting, this bid came in above the grant funds. This is $177,000 of state of California per capita grant funds for this project. We have received the revised plans and currently getting a revised cost estimate so we can move forward with the project. The Centennial Park patio shade sale, those bids opened October 20th. We had one bidder. And those contract documents are being finalized so we can start on that project for a summer completion. In design, we have the pickleball court complex construction, 7 courts at the current Sherwood Park. Those design plans are at 50%. Currently, we're working on storm drain issues, and we hope to be presenting the 50% plans to the building department in a couple weeks. Law enforcement facilities at 4305 Second Wind Way are in plan check, expecting some results soon. Barney Schwartz Park pump track, as a reminder, $500,000 investment by the Rec Foundation, fully funded by them. We just received word yesterday that these plans are fully approved. So now we move on to preparing the construction bid documents to be going out hopefully in January, I would think. And finally, I'm happy to announce that we are starting on the Centennial Park Trail repair from Nickerson to Lana with connections to Centennial Park. We're going to be repairing the unsafe asphalt conditions on those trails and are right now doing the engineering evaluation to prepare the plans. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Council questions? Thank you very much, Frida. Is there anyone in the community that has a question about this portion of the report? Seeing none, we will close that and move on to the next item of business, which is our North County Broadband Strategic Plan update. Mr. Sloan.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. My name is Paul Sloan, Economic Development Manager, and it's my pleasure to bring to you this evening an update on the North County Broadband Strategic Plan. And to begin, I'd just like to give a bit of the background and context for the origins of this project. As it's known, access to low-cost, high-speed internet supports job retention and creation for existing businesses, as well as planned and potential industrial, commercial, and mixed-use developments. Increased broadband connectivity supports business attraction and retention in areas such as specialized manufacturing to support local agriculture and viticulture industries, ag tech development, and tech companies or telecommuters relocating from large cities and seeking high-speed internet access from home. And improving high-speed broadband internet connectivity provides enterprise-level internet for current and future businesses. Also, a very important benefit of a robust broadband infrastructure supports our education system, providing online resources for children, as well as ongoing adult education and training programs for our adults in our community. And in the area of healthcare, it makes telemedicine a possibility, and all of these things combined with other services related to broadband adds to the quality of life of our local community. A timeline of this project and some milestones: in April, Council authorized the signing of a memorandum of understanding between the cities of Paso Robles and Atascadero to collaborate on this project for North County. And in that same council session, council authorized a use of $100,000 as budget for this project to match the $100,000 that was allocated by the city of Atascadero for a combined budget for this project of $200,000. In May, the MOU was signed by Mayor Martin and Mayor Marino for their respective cities. And in the following weeks, staff from both the city of Atascadero and the city of Paso Robles worked collaboratively alongside staff from the Broadband Coalition of the Pacific Coast, the BCPC, in developing the Northern San Luis Obispo County Broadband Strategic Plan RFP, or Request for Proposal document, that was released in July. The proposal from Teleworks, which is the consultant which will be presenting this evening, was accepted by the project working group, which was comprised of city staff from departments including Public Works, IT, GIS, and Economic Development from both the city of Atascadero and the city of Paso Robles. So this has been a great collaboration from our mayors all the way down through our departments within our respective communities. In October 3rd, the project kicked off officially, and beginning of this month, on November 2nd, the California Public Utilities Commission awarded a local agency technical assistance grant, or LATA grant, to the cities of Paso Robles, Atascadero, in the amount of $200,000, which completely covers the cost of this project, which means we're able to achieve this for our respective communities at no additional costs for the residents of our two communities. And last evening, here in council chambers, a highly informative public forum was held on broadband with an expert panel that included the IT director of the Paso Robles Unified School District, the chief operations officer of the Boys and Girls Club of Mid-Central Coast, the director of technology for the People's Self-Help Housing, the behavioral health director for the County of San Luis Obispo, and our own Angelica Fortin, who is the community services director for the city of Paso Robles. And the forum was moderated by our own Mayor Martin. And that literally brings us up to today. And with that, I would like to bring to the microphone to present Ms. Maria Kelly, who will be representing the Teleworks Consultancy, who is the agency running the program. Thank you.
That's a lot. Thanks, Paul. Does this work for me? Thanks. Thank you for having me this evening. My name is Maria Kelly. I'm a resident of Atascadero. I am sub-consulting with the Teleworks team, but I am also working on behalf of the Broadband Consortium of the Pacific Coast, handling portions of this project, further helping reduce some of the costs that we joke that the CPUC is covering my time through consortium work and then the LATA grant. So this is a really exciting time. So this evening I have a light agenda. Talk a little bit about why are we here talking about broadband from the public sector, project timeline, outcomes, some of the data collection that we've collected already, and requesting some of your support to continue that data collection process. And then for your consideration and policy, as policymakers, helping the community become broadband ready. There is work to be done, and we're doing that analysis right now. So why are we here in 2020? COVID, the governor said broadband is going to come up with an action plan, Broadband Council. Broadband Council had been in place since 2010. And so in 2020, December 31st, an executive order came down. Following that, there was significant legislation that followed in early mid-2021, and the most significant is SB 156. These are just some high-level blurbs. It is absolutely driving the work. It's driving the middle mile conversation. It's driving the digital literacy conversation. It's infrastructure. And it authorized for the first time JPAs to be formed
for broadband deployment, and also authorizing the public sector to sell bonds to do broadband development. So for the first time, the public sector was getting involved versus just private sector. On the other, so then just some other high level. On the other side of that, I was just reading exactly 1 year ago today, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act was passed November 15th, 2021. In that, there is significant amount of federal investments made up around $48 billion in infrastructure across the country. Some of it to support digital literacy, some of it for infrastructure tied into digital equity, telecommunications and workforce, cybersecurity. So the state and the federal governments are taking this very seriously and requesting and requiring basically public participation from the public sector. So that's why we're here today. The project timeline is very fast. We are in stakeholder outreach and engagement. Data collection is ongoing, and I'll dive into that a little bit more. We did have the public forum last night. Thank you so much for your time. Even though it was a small group, it was very, very informative, and I got some great notes in helping do some digital divide analysis for Paso Robles. By the end of March, we will come back to your council with a final presentation and some recommendations, and my hope is that some of the Teleworks team will be here at that time, or at least John will hopefully be here at that time. So we will stay engaged. The project outcomes, this is what development of a strategic plan looks like. These are all the work products that go into it. It's a significant amount of work. Again, in this very short timeline, while we're doing some of the people analysis, there's some infrastructure analysis. Again, why we're building this infrastructure, it's for people. It's not just infrastructure, right? It's for the people that are going to use it and closing that digital divide. So this is where we are. We have been meeting over the last week pretty intensely with internet incumbent service providers or internet service providers from small to large throughout the area, and we'll continue to do that and find out more about what is available in our area and what can we do to effectively capitalize on that, and we'll come back with a full plan. This is what this is what the data collection looks like. This is all accessible through the Broadband Consortium website. Everyone can see what the data is looking like. There was a little bit of an uptick today. We did pull this on November 11th, but after the forum last night and a little more outreach, the director of behavioral health asked if she could promote the survey and speed testing throughout her staff, and we said absolutely, of course. So we got a little more data today. But what this does is measures, you can see broadband for all in the federal government. Broadband for all is looking for 100 symmetrical, 100 download and 100 upload. The federal government is looking for 100 download and 20 upload. If you look at these speeds right here, you can see where we are as a community and where Atascadero is as a community, and seeing where those service speeds actually are. So what this tells us is we have opportunity. Why do we collect the speed test data? It helps us with grant applications. It helps identify areas that don't have service. It helps identify pockets of service. So it really is fantastic data, and the company that we work with on this has about 20 states under contract, and in California only has about 4 counties, and we are one of the counties. The consortium has a license to this, so we'll be collecting data for at least a year or two to help support and further analysis. So this is the other piece of the data is the needs assessment. This is just pulled from about 35 questions that we have, including a few questions for the 13 to 18-year-old age group. It's all anonymous. And then we have 19 and older, and then we have some questions in there for business. What can your business? I was just checking just before this meeting from some of the data from the businesses in Paso Robles that we have heard from. With increased broadband service, they say they could hire more employees, they could hit more markets. So from an economic development standpoint, we already have data that's telling us this is absolutely important for Paso Robles. But from a generalized standpoint, we are looking at reliability, affordability, and availability. And that is in direct alignment with California Broadband for All. The lens with which this work is being done is ensuring that there's alignment with the state and the feds so that we know that we're doing the work we need to do for any future planning, for future grant funding. So that is the lens with which this project is being done. So this is exciting. And then when we bring the project back, we'll have a full data analysis for you, and we'll let you know how we're all doing. The GIS mapping, this is some of the things that we're initially already looking at. When we look at sort of targeting, this helps us understand, again, it's all data. It helps us understand where there's opportunities, where are the gaps, what might it look like for deployment. Again, we're looking at priority is fiber, but we know in this community and in Paso Robles and in North County in general, between trees and hills, we're probably going to be looking at some point-to-point wireless and some other infrastructure as well. But in the meantime, we need to still look at what's under the ground and above the ground and who the population is and how it might be used. So that's exciting. For your consideration, some of the things that we're looking for through this project is a main point of contact. Thank you. We have that in Paul. The rest of your team has been very responsive. We have a meeting next week to discuss some other information that we are looking for in regards to policies, what policies the community already has in place and where we need to be making some recommendations. Participate in the gap analysis process. When we come back to you and we come back with this information to your staff, we'll be able to tying into, point one, I just had a little brain fade. Coming back working with your staff, identifying where those gaps are and being able to make those recommendations. So that's all in play. It's going great. The GIS mapping partnership, that's been going really well. And then for your looking to you to support your staff in this work, support them in their time and their energies is part of what we see a role as the policymakers, including broadband and ongoing discussions, not necessarily for funding or to commit any funding, but just knowing that the future conversations are going to continue to be important. This issue is at the forefront of the state and our country, and it's going to take years, and it needs to be a priority conversation when you're doing road work or other types of capital improvement projects. Should you be installing conduit? Is that a conversation? Is that an opportunity? We'll be able to hopefully provide some guidance there, and make sure that it's part of your general plan, and always for the purpose of exploring ongoing funding opportunities. And that's going to be, that status on that side is going to be ongoing, and then participating in discussions is ongoing. And then when we come back again at the end of this project, we'll have some clear recommendations and potential of policy. That is all I have this evening. I'm happy to answer any questions. Yes.
Thank you very much. This again is an information item, no action required by the council. Council questions, Mr. Strong?
Yes, my first question is, are your slides printable? Can you print them out and get us copies?
Absolutely. Yeah, your staff has them. Absolutely.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Bausch?
I was going to ask the same thing. They weren't included in the agenda packet, so for the public that might want to see them, hopefully we'll get those up for everybody. The second question. So this broadband, considered sort of a fundamental right. We need it. We absolutely have to have no question about that. Had a discussion over the weekend with several people discussing what's the role of government right now versus the private sector. How do we define that? It's always been a private sector role, government provided licensing,
right? And
now we're getting a lot deeper into that. Where do we stop that?
That's such a great question, and I did not bring that slide with me this evening, but I'll be sure to share it with you. We have a fantastic slide that was developed, and I can't recall who the consultant was nationally that did it, but the CPUC is using it, we've been using it, and showing the variety of degrees of where the public-private partnership and what those intersections are, to a very minimal role of the public sector to a very engaged role of the public sector. So it really is about public-private partnerships. And when it comes to digital equity and inclusion work, it's public, private, and CBO. It's going to take a coalition of people really solving that digital divide. But from an infrastructure perspective, it's looking at the public-private partner. And again, a lot of the funding and the allocation, like even the LATA grant, was a new grant funding for the public sector to participate in planning, because historically the public sector wasn't They've never applied for broadband or telecommunications funding before. That was never a thing until last year. So it's a new role, and that's why it's really exciting to see North County so engaged and moving forward on this planning, because it keeps our voice in the conversation, keeps your voice in the conversation.
Thank you.
Councilman Strong.
Yes, so we don't become big brother in this situation.
Right.
There's the dig once policy. So that once that trench is open, is it possible for a private sector company to lay its own cable in that same trench?
If that policy is in place, and if there's the notification process in place within a jurisdiction, it's more than a cable. It's looking at best practices. It's more looking to public sector to install conduit so that the private sector at some point could come back and blow fiber through or other sorts of infrastructure.
But what if you have a private company that doesn't want to be in a common conduit? They want their own.
We are seeing that in conversations, even with the middle mile, the state of California is looking to build or lease 10,000 miles of open access infrastructure, and multiple conduits in a trench is probably going to be a thing. So it may not be, there are telecommunications companies that are not comfortable sharing a conduit, but they don't mind a side-by-side conduit.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Councilman Hammond.
Well, that's how we were talking.
Microphone.
Was the city would put in the conduit, and then we would lease the conduit to different franchises. Yep. That would be a revenue source for the city.
That's a great model.
That is the plan.
Yes, that is one of the public-private models that you are already engaged in, correct?
Right. Okay, very good. Thank you.
So just a couple of points to repeat probably, but first of all, the whole reason we're doing this is to approach this from a shovel-ready process, because of the funding sources that will be engaged in the future, the communities and the partnerships that are involved, if they do not have a broadband access study in place, or they don't have a plan in place, they go to the back of the line. And it's sort of in line with the infrastructure construction projects that we have in other segments right now. And that is, if we have a plan and ready to go, we're going to have a much greater chance to receive funding for the actual implementation of that plan, correct? And then as far as the different aspects of who will be partnering, how big is this partner, how big is that partner, that's going to be something that's open for discussion by the council and the public in the future.
Absolutely.
Right. And then as far as gathering data points on what the existing service is, do you want the general public involved in telling you whether they have good service, bad service, slow service, fast service? How do they do that?
That's through the needs assessment. So that's at the pcbroadband.org/needs assessment. There is a needs assessment there that's the data that I was sharing, that some of it's perceptive, like do I like my service? Yes, no. Who's your service provider? What's most important to you? So that needs assessment data is helpful. And yes, we are looking to the community to.
So it's really important that we get the word out that people can become involved in the needs survey to be part of the plan that eventually emerges from this. And I think we need to have a link on the city website with a big red button saying push here. Yeah. Okay. Are there any questions from the public? Seeing none, thank you very much for the presentation. We greatly appreciate it.
Thank you so much for your time.
Up next, we come to the time reserved for general public comments, the time the public may address the council on items within the council's purview but not scheduled on the agenda tonight. All persons desiring to speak on an agenda item are asked to fill out speaker information cards and give them to the city clerk prior to speaking. Each individual speaker will be limited to a presentation time of 3 minutes per item. Those persons wishing to speak on any item scheduled on the agenda will be given an opportunity to do so at the time that item is being considered. State law does not allow the council to discuss or take action on issues not on the agenda, except that members of the council or staff may briefly respond to statements made or questions posed by persons exercising their public testimony rights. At this time, I'll open general public comments. If anyone would like to make a general public comment, this is your opportunity. Seeing no one rise, I do have one person standing in line online. Amanda Hatt, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Welcome.
Oh, thank you. Can I start now?
Yes, please.
Okay. This comment is in relation to the city's consistent failure to adhere to their own ordinance and the regulations that they impose inequitably upon the residents and taxpayers of Paso Robles. In June, I received a violation notification that included a punishment for a short-term rental violation. This notification included a punishment not supported by the city's own ordinances. I was moved 10 places on the wait list, despite the city ordinance not listing this as a potential penalty. Confused, I filed an appeal in June. Per the city's ordinances, I was expecting a response to this appeal after the next council meeting on July 12, 2022. Unfortunately, I did not receive a reply, and despite weekly follow-ups via phone and email, I still had not heard back from the city by October 12th, 4 months after the original date was filed, or the original appeal, excuse me. I did, however, get snippets from the planning department when they happened to answer a couple of the 4 dozen calls I made over 4 months. Those calls confirmed that the city itself was not sure if the penalty was legal, and also confirmed that I was the only person in Paso Robles who had received a material impact as a result of this effort. Exhausted, I hired legal counsel in early October to help with our pursuit for a fair resolution. On October 20th, our counsel served the city with papers with a deadline to respond of October 31st. That letter went without response or acknowledgement until I escalated a lack of response to the city's manager office. At that point, we finally got a response on November 2nd, almost 5 months from the original date of the violation. The letter agreed that there was no legal support for the punishment I had received, but it was vague in the path to resolution. My lawyers asked for clarification and followed up 3 times in the following 1.5 weeks. Today, I was finally able to get a hold of Melissa, who is a gem, in the city manager's office, who apparently worked magic and at least got me a response. You may be wondering at this point, like, why am I calling in? What's the purpose of my comment? My purpose is to let you know that now, almost 5 months after the promised date of resolution, I am still chasing this issue on a daily basis. I've incurred over $50,000 in personal damages and an additional $10,000 in legal fees. Is this justice and is this fair? I urge and I beg the city to help me get a resolution. It's not just that I've had to exert strenuous efforts to get a resolution on the issue, but that the city has already gone on record saying that they agree that nothing explicitly grants discretion to the city to levy a penalty of demotion on the applicant list. I want to end this with my last 16 seconds by really thanking Melissa and Shauna and Elizabeth for replying to me, but I just have to escalate this to the city that I have been working this issue almost daily for 5 months without any resolution, and it is in direct conflict with the city ordinances. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for your comments. We appreciate it. Is there anyone else online? I see no one. I'm going to close general public comment, bring it back to the council. Is there anybody on staff that wants to comment on the last call, or perhaps this is a litigation issue that should be referred?
I don't know that it's a litigation issue yet, sir, but we are familiar with the caller and her situation. The city, I think her description, as vague as it was, I can tell the council that it appeared that she was knowingly violating the city's municipal code regarding STRs, operating without a license or permit within the city. That was brought to our attention. The city was doing their best to mitigate the impacts to that. As we were going through that, we were contacted by her legal counsel to try and resolve this, and our city attorney has been working with her city attorney to get there. As we continue to move through this process, it's unfortunate that she's still having challenges, but we're confident we'll be able to resolve it soon.
So it seems like one of her big concerns was her perception of a time delay in response. Any comment about that?
Yeah, I believe her attorney gave us an arbitrary deadline to respond to them, and our attorney's been in contact with her regularly, and so I don't know how to respond to that perception of hers.
Okay, so we will work diligently to resolve the situation without further litigation.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. I will ask at this time if there are any agenda items to be deferred this evening. I hear silence, so I'm going to say no. We move to the consent calendar. Items on the consent calendar are considered routine, not requiring separate discussion. However, if discussion is wanted by a member of the council or the public, the item may be removed from the consent calendar and considered separately. Council members and members of the public may offer comments or ask questions of clarification without removing an item from the calendar. Individual items are approved by the vote that approves the consent calendar unless an item is pulled for separate consideration, and items pulled from consent are usually heard at the end of the meeting. That being said, I'll ask if the council has any questions or items to be withdrawn. Mr. Bausch.
Just a comment. I will not be voting on item 5, being that I was not present as a city council person August 16th.
Very good. Thank you. Anyone else? I will ask the public if there's anyone who has a comment or a quick question about a consent calendar item. I see no one coming forward. I see no one waiting online. I'm going to close public comment on the consent calendar, bring it back to the council for action. Mr. Gregory?
I move that we approve items 4 through 14 on the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Gregory, second by Councilman Strong. If there's no further discussion, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Gregory?
Aye.
Councilmember Strong?
Aye.
Councilmember Bausch?
Aye.
Councilmember Hammond?
Aye.
Mayor Martin?
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Once again, I will promote the fact that all of our agendas and the linked staff reports are available online at prcity.com. However, for those who have not taken advantage of that service, I would ask the city manager to please give us a short report of the actions we've taken on our consent calendar tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our first item is approval of the 11/1 City Council meeting minutes. Item 2 is the revised 8/16/2022 City Council meeting minutes. Next item is the receipt of the warrant register. Next item is reaffirmation of Resolution 21-147 approving remote and/or hybrid remote and in-person public meetings citywide as needed pursuant to Assembly Bill 361. Item 8 was the approval of a new event in the city park, a Hanukkah menorah lighting. Item number 9 is authorization to apply for Sustainable Groundwater Management Implementation Grant. Item number 10 is approval of an oak tree removal permit at 1010 Bogey and at Fairway in the public right-of-way. Item 11 is the approval of an oak tree removal permit, 28-inch blue oak tree at Beechwood Drive right-of-way across from Virginia Peterson Elementary School. Item number 12 is approval of the First Amendment to the contract between MIG Inc. and the City of Paso Robles for completion of the zoning code update, and find that this action is not a project under CEQA. Item 13 is the second reading and adoption of Ordinance 1127, updating the municipal code, street and alley frontage improvements. Item 14 is second reading and adoption of Ordinance number 1128, amending the city zoning map for one property in the Uptown Town Center specific plan at 727.5 26th Street.
Thank you, sir. We move on now to discussion items. Agenda item number 15 is Central Coast Community Energy Board appointments, rescission of memorandum of understanding with the cities of San Luis Obispo and Morro Bay for sharing the policy board, operations board, and community advisory committee seats, approval of memorandum of understanding with the city of Atascadero for sharing policy board and operations board seats, appoint a policy board member and policy board alternate member, and find this action is not a project under the California Environmental Quality Act. Staff report, please.
Mr. Hewitt.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Council members. Chris Hewitt, Assistant City Manager. This item is related to the Central Coast Community Energy Organization. That is the organization or the joint powers authority that the city became a member of, in 2019. As part of that, joining that JPA, the city shares board seats with the city of San Luis Obispo and the city of Morro Bay currently. The city of San Luis Obispo has been representing the three cities through a memorandum of understanding that this council entered into in 2020. So for, again, the last couple of years, the city of San Luis Obispo has been providing that representation on the policy board. They've also been providing representation on the operations board, and I'll explain a little bit of the difference in those two in just a moment. Earlier this year, the city of Atascadero, their city council elected to join CCCE, and in doing so, it changed up the governance structure under the JPA, whereas a new seat was created. And that new seat now is going to be shared between the city of Paso Robles and the city of Atascadero. That's pursuant to the Joint Powers Agreement, which specifies the governance structure. Because we are a city of less than 50,000 in population, we share a seat with a geographically nearby jurisdiction. And again, with the addition of Atascadero into the fold, they are now the ones that we share or will be sharing the seat with. There's a couple items before you this evening. The first is to formally rescind the MOU between the city of Paso Robles, Morro Bay, and San Luis Obispo. Again, because the governance structure has changed, that provides the ability, one of the abilities to remove the city of Paso as a party to that agreement. We have been in contact with the staff at both cities and have determined that an action through a rescission action this evening by the city council, and then a subsequent letter from our office to those cities will suffice in removing the city of Paso Robles as a party. The second item for consideration is a memorandum of understanding, a new one with the city of Atascadero. And I will briefly go through the terms as they've been developed and proposed to you this evening. It'll be similar to the MOU that you previously approved, whereas the cities will alternate appointments every 2 years to the Policy and Operations Board. The same city will appoint or assign the individuals to those boards for each term. So the same city will appoint the policy individuals and assign the Operations Board individuals. The city of Paso Robles will make the first appointments to the board for the first 2-year term, and that's another action item on your agenda tonight. Then Atascadero will make the second appointment in January of 2025, and then we'll continue to alternate 2-year terms beyond that. Again, the policy board is essentially the city council of CCCE. It provides strategic oversight, budget oversight, and policy-making decisions for the organization. The operations board is essentially a board that's made up of the city managers and county administrative officers of those organizations that are member agencies. And that board provides guidance and direction to the chief executive officer and the staff of the organization. So with that, Atascadero did consider this MOU at their November 8th meeting, and the city council approved it in its current form. And so we're asking for that same action tonight and for the city manager to be able to execute the agreement. Finally, we're requesting that the mayor, with the approval of the entire city council, appoint a council member as the primary policy board member and an alternate policy board member as well. Just a little bit more information, absent an MOU being in place, the city selection committee at the countywide level would make the appointment. And then from a policy board standpoint, there are 2 upcoming meetings. So the next meeting is scheduled for December 14th, and then there's one in February on the 15th. And then for those that are appointed this evening, if that action does take place, 3CE staff, is ready to provide those members with an onboarding process and more information about the appointment and the representation. So with that, I'll turn it back, Mayor, to you, and be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions of staff? So it says we're talking here about sharing policy board and operations board seats. So there are actually 2 boards we're talking about?
Correct. There are 2 separate boards. The policy board is the board that the elected officials, the city council members, are appointed to. The policy board is one that is essentially automatically assigned through the JPA to the city manager or a designee.
Okay, very good. And these other cities that we're rescinding agreements with, they understand the situations. It's not going to surprise anybody, right?
Absolutely not. They're actually the ones that initiated the conversation, so they're very aware of the action that we're taking tonight, and we've been in communication with those 2 cities along with Atascadero, so very good. Everyone is aware.
Thank you. Mr. Hammond.
Yeah, Chris. So in other words, we're going to be sharing the seat with Atascadero. Are we taking the first meetings as far as Paso? In other words, we're not alternating every other one?
No, correct. Sorry if I was not clear on that. Yeah. Each appointment, so this appointment is for the first 2-year term.
Yes.
And so the council will appoint a primary and an alternate. Paso Robles those appointees will serve the first 2-year term. Mm-hmm. And in January 2025, Atascadero will then start to serve for a 2-year term. We'll come back to Paso after that.
Got it.
Any other council questions? Very good. Thank you, sir. We'll open it to the public. This is your opportunity. I see no one rising. I see no one waiting in line online. I will close public comments, bring it back to the council. I'm happy to serve as the primary, but I don't want to hog the fun if somebody else wants to give it a whirl. Mr. Gregory?
I just had a question, Mr. Martin. Did you serve on any of this board yet?
No.
So this is our first time. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Other comments?
I'll be happy to serve as your alternate.
So I will volunteer to be the primary. I have Councilman Hammond volunteering to be the alternate, if that's appropriate. Do we need 5 separate actions on this? Do we need 5 separate actions, or can we just move to a staff recommendation? Very good. So I would entertain a motion to move staff recommendation
So
for those
moved.
appointments. Second. Motion by Councilman Gregory, second by Councilman Strong. No further discussion?
I have a question real quick.
Mr. Gregory?
Should we include your appointments at the same time?
Yes.
Mention that in the motion, so it'd be Mayor Martin as primary and Hammond as an alternate?
Very good.
Yes.
If there's no further discussion, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Gregory?
Aye.
Councilmember Strong?
Yes.
Councilmember Bosch?
Aye.
Councilmember Hammond?
Aye.
Mayor Martin?
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Item number 16, rescinding Resolution 16-141, approving of an agreement with the 16th District Agricultural Association for the sale of a portion of Pioneer Park property, adopting a resolution declaring the city's intent to sell approximately 5.6 acres of Pioneer Park property, declaring the property exempt status, finding this action is exempt from CEQA. Staff report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we've seen this item a lot over the last few months. But based upon your direction at our last meeting and the status of the discussions with the state, you have a couple of actions that you need to take. As we've discussed repeatedly, there is the resolution from 2016 that approved an agreement. That agreement is no longer relevant, so we need to rescind that action so that it's no longer out there as an approved document, creating a cloud on title for when we move forward with some new transaction. So that's the first item that you're being requested to act on. The second item is to adopt a resolution declaring the city's intent to sell the property. When a city sells a piece of property, it's generally a two-step process. The one is first step is your action tonight to declare it your intent to sell for public convenience and necessity. And your resolution addresses that. It will then also set a public hearing, which is set for December 6th at our next council meeting. And that's when you would actually act upon the document itself, which is not before you this evening. And then the next action that you're being asked to take tonight is to declare the property exempt surplus. As we've discussed repeatedly, the Surplus Land Act has changed since we originally acted on this in 2016. There is an exemption to the Surplus Land Act for a transaction between governmental agencies. So because we're going to sell this to a division of the state, the 16th Agricultural District, it falls within that exemption. So after you declare that property exempt surplus tonight, we will reach out to Housing and Community Development and let them know that we've taken that action. So we have complied with the new provisions of the Surplus Land Act. And then finally, you must take an action regarding CEQA because it is a land transaction, which is a project under CEQA. However, it is exempt because of it is an existing facility and we are not modifying or changing the use. Any future modification or change in use will result in its own CEQA review.
Very good. Thank you. Questions of staff? So I have a question. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Councilman Bosch.
Thank you. So can you clarify the exempt surplus status?
Sure. So originally, when we did this before, the Surplus Land Act didn't apply to this transaction at all, based upon the definitions with the Surplus Land Act. In 2019, effective in 2020, the Surplus Land Act changed. So any piece of property that the city sells, you need to determine first whether it's surplus or exempt surplus. If it is surplus, it has to be made available to affordable housing developers, park and rec districts, a variety of people who fall within that first category. If it is exempt surplus, there are 14 exemptions listed within the statute which allow you to not comply with the whole Surplus Land Act process of contacting the affordable housing developers and such. If you fall within the exempt surplus, you pick one of those 14. If you check all those boxes, you can declare yourself exempt surplus and go straight to the sale.
Very good. So there wouldn't be, or a very small chance of anybody interrupting the sale on December 6th.
Not based upon the Surplus Land Act. I would not think so.
Thank you.
Any other questions? So I do have kind of a general question. We've been working on this for quite a while now. I think the question that would pop up in the average citizen's mind is if the conditions of our original negotiated agreement from, 2016 have now been resolved, why are we rescinding? Well, that sounds kind of
Because the original agreement was an agreement that we had drafted and worked out with the fair itself, the 16th Agricultural District. Because this agreement has to be approved by the state through the Department of General Services, the Department of Public Works, the Department of Finance, they have a different form that they want to use. And so we've been going back and forth with them about their form for the past 90 days. But the substantive business terms are still basically all the same that we agreed to back in 2016. They just look a little different today.
So we'll have another action coming back to us in the future with the state formatted agreement, which reflects the negotiated points from 2016.
Correct.
Thank you very much.
On December 6th.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Bausch.
So just to clarify that, so on December 6th, we could actually declare moving forward on the sale with the resolution.
Yes, you'll be tonight setting a public hearing for December 6th to consider the purchase and sale agreement between the city and the variety of state entities.
Great, thank you.
Any other council questions? Very good. I'll open to the public. This is your opportunity. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Dale Gustin. I've been following this for quite some time. Been active as a volunteer and then an employee of the fair. Been active with Pioneer Day and the Pioneer Foundation and the museum, which is joins this, and of course was aware of the agreements that were formatted and processed to allow the museum to expand. And I was elated over that. I originally, and probably still, disagree with the legal approach on this. My approach would have been to merely provide an amendment to the original agreement and make it effective, including the amendment of the original date. And then, but your legal counsel says we got to go through this process, which is going to stall it even more. My question is, what is the purchase price of the new agreement?
Thank you, sir. Would anyone else like to speak? Good evening.
Hello. Jeff Carr, Paso Robles. The last meeting we talked about this recently. There were a lot of even congratulations going back and forth to people, and it sounded like all the terms were understood, which was a little strange in the public because we hadn't heard anything about the details and we were eager to find out about them. But now I see the terms are not quite in place. But overall, there are some questionable terms from what is in the public. I mean, we're talking $800,000, $620,000 below the market value in 2016. There's been no discussion or consideration of inflation or changing land values over that time. There's been no consideration of the property's value as a park. You know, what is lost now with that park not being there, what our alternatives are there. There's been no discussion about that yet. I mean, that $800K to me, even with inflation, should be $1 million. And I see this as a $2 million deal, even with some of those restrictions you put on. So I'm really kind of feel that when you came back this next time tonight, that you would have had this detailed agreement in place so the public could review it, see these details and discuss it. And you have in your resolution that this is supposed to be for the public interest. Well, I think that's what you need to do. You need to come to the public and show us how it's in our public interest and convenience that require the sale of this public land, because I think the one or two lines that are in that resolution are pretty weak. And I think you need to pump that up a little bit to convince me anyway, that and that just these costs, these sale prices are what we should be doing. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? I see no one in line online. We'll close public comment, bring it back to the council. A couple of questions there, I think, rolled together. First of all, if you could clarify the purchase price.
Sure, the anticipated purchase price is $800,000.
$800,000. There was a question about the amount of public information that had been distributed and the involvement of the public. Perhaps you or someone on staff could talk about the number of times this has been before us in a public arena.
Sure, I think it's been before us for at least 4, maybe 5 times since July or so, or earlier, maybe June.
Okay.
Additionally, tomorrow, the draft and substantially final form will be available of the purchase and sale agreement will be available in the city clerk's office.
Right, and that'll be a public hearing item probably first week of December, where everybody can phone in, fill the room, make any comment they want, and they'll be able to read the agreement in depth before that evening, correct?
Yes, it'll be available tomorrow morning.
Good. And then there was a discussion or a question about the consideration of changing land values and the justification for the reduced price of the property.
So in consultation with the state, based upon the restrictions on the property can only be used for fair purposes. The property cannot be sold by the state without giving the city the opportunity to repurchase it. There are a variety of other restrictions in the document, which we believe justify the $800,000 price. When you combine the restrictions on the property with the community benefits to be received, the city felt comfortable that $800,000 was a fair price for the property.
So if I understand the comment, the scope of uses for the property by the agricultural district are severely limited. Their ability to encumber the property is severely limited, and there are safeguards for the city should that ever go south for the city to get the land back. And so we're talking a severely limited use of the property they're buying.
That's correct. In addition, the city's retaining the property through a license agreement for a 3-year period at no charge.
That's correct. Thank you very much. Okay, council discussion. Mr. Gregory.
I'm ready to make a motion.
We need separate motions on this, I assume?
Yes, please.
Yes, separate motions.
2 motions. First of all, I'd like to approve the resolution 22XXX, rescinding resolution 16141, approving the 216 purchase and sale agreement.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Gregory, second by Councilman Bausch. There's no further discussion. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Gregory?
Yes.
Councilmember Bausch?
Aye.
Councilmember Hammond?
Aye.
Councilmember Strong?
Aye.
Mayor Martin?
Aye, motion passes 5-0.
On the second item, I'd like to move that we approve resolution 22XXX, declaring the city's intention to sale of an approximately 5.6 acre portion of the city-owned property, commonly known as Pioneer Park, APN number 008-254-002, to the 16th DAA, setting a hearing date for the consideration of protests to the property sale portion of APN 008-254-002, declaring the property exempt surplus land and finding that this action is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act pursuant to state CEQA guidelines section 15301 of existing facilities.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Gregory, second by Councilman Bausch. There's no further discussion. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Gregory?
Aye.
Councilmember Bausch?
Aye.
Councilmember Hammond?
Aye.
Councilmember Strong?
Aye.
Mayor Martin?
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much. We come now to the city manager report. The stage is yours, sir.
I have nothing to report, sir.
Well, that's a waste of a stage right there. Council of Business and Committee reports. Mr. Gregory?
I had the pleasure of meeting with Supervisor Bajong and Mayor Martin, and before the election, so it's kind of a fun conversation. I would like to, I have a conflict tomorrow night. I'm on the Supplemental Tax Board, and we have an...
There's...
I don't think so. Anyway.
Are you talking about the
Wednesday night? Oh, our special meeting is on Thursday night?
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, good, never mind.
Never mind then.
I don't have a conflict, so I'm happy, thanks.
See, we solve problems here, right? Mr. Hammond.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Meeting I've had is with Integrated Waste Management. Again, nothing moving really that we need to go over there, just cruising through normal business there. I also attended last week, C3E actually put on a forum, regional forum actually, and with the So the new IRA, what is it? What's the acronym? It's the Recovery Act. Inflation Recovery Act is what it is. There's going to be a lot of money coming from the federal government. And really the forum was about how cities can basically work together to garner support for the Central Coast. And it has to do with the C3E that we were talking about being a member on. But there's a lot of different programs, and there's a lot of, it was packed house down there at the Monday Club the other day. So there's plenty here to go over. I think, and that's all I have. I have a meeting tomorrow, but nothing in the past.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Mr. Strong.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The primary thing that I did was today I was in the LoSan Board of Directors meeting. That is the Los Angeles to San Luis Obispo rail corridor, known as the Pacific Surfliner more commonly. And it runs from San Diego basically as far as Paso Robles, but it's currently stopping in San Luis Obispo because that last trek up the grade takes longer by train than it does by bus. We bus people from San Luis Obispo to Paso right now. But in order to improve that service and make it possible for the entire line to connect all the way to the Bay Area, it's necessary to have a layover facility here. And we did approve that today, and the price is going to be approximately $2.5 million. The site is right there at the current rail station in San Luis Obispo, and they will move forward with building that facility so that they can lay trains over and change crews, et cetera. And that way we can start in San Luis Obispo and head south, or stop down there and head north and terminate at either place. So it's going to be a very vastly improved system. The other thing that we're doing is trying to restore the system we had before sea level rises started, because now we are closing whole sections of the track in Southern California. And part of the problem is specifically in the San Clemente area and also down by Del Mar. And we have bluff that is sloughing off. We have homes that are in danger of sliding into the ocean. We have trains that were using that track that are actually starting to be hit while in transit with people on board by waves coming up from the ocean. So we had to close that whole section for use. And we have just approved a project to go ahead and stabilize that area and protect the tracks from further damage. And meanwhile, we will be looking at alternate inland routes, but that's a long-term project. We have to do something now in order to keep traffic and service going through these from the south to the north. And that's going to be a multi-billion-dollar project. But we are moving ahead with that right now. It's about a $2 billion project. And that we're moving ahead on. And finally, there have been security issues on rail property. We've had them here with people encroaching on property, using as campsites, just traveling across the tracks where there was no control and no way to stop people from just wandering across. We did have the cooperation of Union Pacific at one point, where they actually put in a very strong fence that prevented crossing at one area. And it's one that cannot be cut except with an acetylene torch. You can't use a wire cutter to cut through that fence. So we did secure that. But there's still problems. And so in January 11th and 12th of next year, there's going to be a special event between the Amtrak Police Department and the Operations Rail Safe as co-hosts at the Los Angeles Police Department Academy for a partner training session. And that's to train local jurisdictions and our police force, if we want to send a representative, on how to deal with the Amtrak police on the Amtrak properties or the Union Pacific properties or any of the rail properties, so that we have cooperative efforts, especially if there's an accident or something happens that we have to respond to. How can we coordinate and make this work successfully to keep things moving and still either take care of whoever's been deceased or apprehending whoever has caused a problem? So this is going to be an important training session. We will have an agenda, and we will have the results of that academy available to police departments in our entire jurisdiction here in the county following that particular academy. So that's just an informational item of what we're moving ahead on. And that's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Bausch.
Thank you. Well, as we know, November 8th was a very memorable day. I have a different reason for celebrating. Very memorable and thank my beautiful wife, Julie, for our 43rd wedding anniversary. Thank you, Julie, for putting up with my involvement here in the school board and here at the city. I met with some folks regarding lighting menorah in the park that we passed earlier this evening. I attended a class put on by the UCs for more affordable, equitable, and sustainable housing future study. Attended the downtown Main Street meeting last night. I want to thank Main Street for a very lovely, memorable, very, very busy, elegant evening on Saturday night. It was a great production. Good to see everybody out. Tomorrow, on the 16th at 5:30, there will be a ribbon cutting ceremony at Glen Speck Elementary. It's nice to see that finally moving along and getting to where we can open that campus back up. 5:30, yes. Yep. Just running through a couple things that are coming up. This is my favorite time of year. We have a downtown holiday lighting ceremony and cancer support community lights of hope on Friday, November 25th. On December 3rd, we'll have the 61st holiday light parade that'll be going around downtown park. In conjunction with that, we're already in the midst of a gift card tree raffle put down by the downtown merchants that'll go through December 20th. There's over $1,000 worth of gift cards available if you choose to participate. December 10th, we have the Vine Street Showcase. Please, that's always a great event. It's back live this year. Please mark your calendars and be sure to come down and walk with us. On the 18th, we passed tonight, Ciabatta Paso Robles will host a menorah lighting ceremony in the downtown park. And I think those are all the mentions I was asked to give. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. For myself, I have attended the SLOCOG meeting along with Councilman Strong, also the SLOCAL Advisory Committee meeting discussing the role of local government in the marketing of tourism in our area. And a big development in that group is something called slowcal.com/welcome. It's guest training, not just for the tourism industry workers, but for basically anybody that wants to give it a shot. So I'm going to sign up as the mayor and hope to get the first certification as a county mayor for guest services in our area. And I think it'd be really interesting for anybody else to give it a try too. So it's slowcal.com/welcome. I, among the other council members and city staff, attended the economic forecast in San Luis Obispo. I had the opportunity to meet again with Congressman Jimmy Panetta, gave me another opportunity to talk about our infrastructure projects, so he's not going to forget about that. Councilman Strong and I participated in a youth essay judging contest over the last week. I attended the chamber mixer at Firestone Walker Brewing Company. Councilman Gregory and I met with Supervisor Pashong over breakfast. I attended, along with the city manager and others, the SLOCAL Destination Summit meeting in San Luis Obispo, where we heard from various sectors of the tourism industry in this county, and attended the Veterans Day ceremony at Paso Robles District Cemetery. Also met with staff and residents of the Orchard Bungalow area, addressing their concerns regarding the timing of street repairs in that area. Senior Citizens Advisory Committee, I met with them, answered a lot of questions about street repairs and water rates. Last night I moderated the North County Broadband Strategy Forum that was reported earlier, and this afternoon I attended the Travel Paso Board of Directors. Coming up next, Supplemental Sales Tax Oversight Committee meeting will be Wednesday, November 16th at 5:30 p.m. Special City Council meeting Thursday, November 17th, 5:30 p.m. Development Review Committee Monday, November 21st at 3:30 p.m. The Planning Commission meeting, November 22nd, has been canceled, but we don't want you to go without a Planning Commission meeting, so there'll be a special Planning Commission meeting on Tuesday, November 29th, starting at 6:30 p.m. Development Review Committee Monday, December 5th, 3:30 p.m., and the next City Council meeting will be Tuesday, December 6th at 6:30 p.m. The deadline for submitting items for the regular meeting on December 6th is Wednesday, November the 2nd. There's no further business. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to know, or call your attention that at Centennial Park on Thanksgiving Day, the city is allowing Thanksgiving for Paso Robles, put on a free turkey dinner for anybody that wants to come.
Thank you, sir.
12 to 2.
And now I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Hammond, second by Councilman Gregory. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you all for your